Again, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome and introduce Katie to our Sangha. Welcome, Katie. It's so nice to have you join us tonight. That's everybody else back there. You'll meet them all after my talk. We go around, so you'll get to know everyone a little bit at that point. This week's talk and this week's article is the third of 4 parts about what it means to awaken to the Four Noble Truths. And there's 4 of them, so I broke it down into 4 talks. But they all are, obviously, just like the whole Buddha Dharma, they're all interrelated. One part of the Buddha Dharma, the truth informs the truth. So the first, awakening to the first noble truth, is comprehending really a deep and complete and unambiguous understanding of what the Buddha meant when he said that life is stressful, life is dukkha. The second noble truth, and awakening to it, means that we abandon the causes of stress. And the third noble truth, awakening to the third noble truth, is experiencing that abandonment, experiencing the cessation of stress in our lives. At first glance, that could seem pretty superficial as a spiritual discipline, or even if you want to call it a religion. Isn't there more to it? There's got to be more to it than just dealing with stress. But the point of that is, and the point of the importance of cessation of the experiencing the cessation of stress, is that stress is the mask to reality. So it's not so important as far as living in the world to live stress-free. That's not the point. The point is to put aside all the causes of stress, because that's the mask of reality. That's the veil that obscures who we truly are from ourselves. It's the continual engagement of stress that keeps us in delusion. In fact, you could say that the Buddha has also said that life is like an illusion. He didn't say it is an illusion. He said it's like an illusion. And that's the reason why. Because we're so engaged in this constant pursuit of pleasure to avoid states of stress, or the actual engagement of avoiding, things that we don't want to happen. We spend most of our lives, most of our energy, most of our thoughts, most of the troubles that we have in life are in the pursuit of holding on to things that give us pleasure, or avoiding things that take away our pleasure. And that engagement in that 24/7 is what takes away our lives. It takes away our mindfulness. It blocks us from who we truly are. It's the real devil, if you wanted to use the devil in Buddhist terms. It's also Mara. Mara is the more accurate term. Mara is the malevolent spirit in some of the Buddhist traditions that keep us distracted from who we are. Take all that away from Buddhism, and we're just down to stress. Stress is the issue. So it's not so much that Buddhism is about feeling good. It's not so much that Buddhism or the teachings of the Buddha are about reducing stress. It's comprehending stress to such a level that we understand what's behind it. Those of you that remember the Wizard of Oz, stress is like the wizard in that little cubbyhole with it. Pull the shade aside, and you see that it's the wizard that's pulling all these strings. Understand stress, and we're pulling away the veil that's obscuring reality. And so the third noble truth, which is one of those things that people read the first noble truth, they kind of get it, and that engages them. Okay, what's the cause? I understand that. I can work on desire. Let's get past cessation and get into how we really do it. But understanding that this is possible. It's possible to put aside all the causes of stress, all the manifestations of stress in our lives, and awaken to the true nature of reality is the whole point. It's not about just feeling good. Most people, when they start engaging in a practice like this, will start talking about the practical benefits, and that's so important because that keeps us engaged. We're more present. We seem to be more relaxed. We generally feel better. We're more engaged with people. Those are important signs that the practice is working. But that's not the point. The point is to get beyond all of that and recognize who we truly are. Cessation of stress, cessation of the ignorance that causes stress is possible. And that leads us to what I'll be talking about next week, is the Eightfold Path. So this whole teaching, everything that the Buddha taught begins with that first noble truth: life is stress, but it's so stressful, but it's so much deeper than that. That just points out the veil to awakening is stress. That's why we deal with it, and we deal with it in all its manifestations. You know, again, a lot of times when people I talk to that are new to this philosophy, usually they go to, you mean I have to give away all pleasure? I can't take enjoyment out of anything in life? That's not the point. We don't want to be attached to anything. We don't want to say, I want this in my life and I don't want that. We accept everything fully. We enjoy the things that give us pleasure without having attachment to it. And we stop worrying about the things that we have no control over. The First Noble Truth also points to that life is stressful. We can't avoid it. It's a consequence of living in a physical world. There's sickness, old age, and death. We're going to experience that. You know, we're going to experience the loss of people that we care the most about. You know, we're going to have situations in our lives that do create stress. We don't want to be in them. It's just part of life. Accept that as it is, and understand that there's something beyond that. The true nature of reality is experienced by understanding fully what stress is and what it does to our lives. You know, we're going to have it. You know, it's like when stress comes up. We were talking a little bit about the application of mindfulness. Mindfulness means when something comes up, when dukkha arises, when stress arises, and we start getting entangled in it. You know, whatever way. Why is this happening? You know, what did I do to have this cause happen in my life? You know, recognize that it's taking you out of the present moment, and just put it aside. There's no analysis that needs to be done. Understand that it's stress. You know, it's a very simple and direct teaching. Experiencing the cessation of stress is recognizing what it is and abandoning the causes. And then next week we'll talk about the Eightfold Path, how we actually do that. That's the framework for understanding where we get entangled in dukkha, you know, in that illusory nature of life. You know, it seems so inviting. You know, the things it just engages us because of the dualistic way that most of us think. Something catches our eye, good or bad, and we get entangled in it. In the meditation practice, the Buddha taught meditation as the last factor of the Eightfold Path. You know, we first start getting our moral and ethical thinking and actions in line, and then our meditation practice will really have some benefit. But in meditation, as we put aside thoughts as they arise and come back to the sensation of breathing, bring our minds into the present moment, we're being mindful of all those causes of stress. And in a very direct way, we're putting them aside. And it really is that simple. We recognize what's coming up, we put them aside, and we experience the cessation of suffering. In the meditation practice, those moments that we experience presence, that peacefulness of being in this present moment without the distraction of our thoughts, is a little glimpse of awakening. You know, this is the training for a full-time mind of equanimity. You know. The path leads to experience, the Eightfold Path. The experience of cessation of suffering happens by abandoning the causes: clinging, craving, grasping, and desire. And that comes, the motivation comes, and the way we continue on the path is having that little glimpse of right view that gets us going. You know, right view encompasses the whole path. It's the beginning of the path, and it's also the culmination. We understand, at least on an intellectual level, that yes, the Four Noble Truths make sense to me. I'm going to engage in that practice. And ultimately, we fully comprehend it. And that's the whole path. That's the whole path to awakening. It's very simple. It's also very profound. And it takes a bit of work, you know. It takes a bit of understanding. Me and Maura were talking about this talk that she listened to. The Four Noble Truths are the entirety of the Buddha's teaching. Probably it's best to look at it as a synopsis of what the Buddha taught. It's much more profound than it's much deeper than that. And there's many aspects of it. But if we keep our practice within that framework and understand that everything points to cessation of suffering, the experience of cessation of suffering, then it becomes much clearer. We don't get caught into other things. You know? We don't get caught into some of the esoteric and mystical ways that our mind wants to go, and we stay focused on the purpose, you know, cessation of suffering. So Any questions about that? I hope I'm not being too obtuse about this. Yes, I can tell Maura has a question.
You had said that, so if a situation arises, you get tangled up in it, you get hooked by it, whatever, you get, so you said, well, so just recognize it as stress, let it go and come up, back to it. So I get that, but is it, so if you recognize it as stress, or you recognize it as, well, the cause of the stress is some desire to, well, it's either a desire to hold on to a situation that's no there. We want to hold on to pleasure. I don't like this because it's not what I wanted. I want to get rid of it. So that's like the craving part. Or we are not recognizing impermanence. Something is gone that we wanted, or some sense of self that we want to get it away with. But just recognizing it as stress or dukkha, and then letting it go, is that different than recognizing I'm in stress because I'm clinging on to something, whether something that's impermanent or not wanting to have something there? Do you need to go to the second, or you can just?
Well,
I know the shortcut is just like, okay, it's impermanent. This is just impermanent. I'm not.
I think you bring up a good point, that everything that we experience, we look at within the context of the Four Noble Truths. So yes, if we're experiencing stress, understand that it's out of grasping, clinging, craving, desire, aversion, that we're causing that stress. It has to do with our own thoughts, words, and deeds that it's manifesting in our lives. It's not something that is being imposed on us, or it's a consequence of just living in the world, but still not wanting it to be different. The way that I see of holding on to that, the easiest and most simplest way is to be at peace with the people and events of our lives, no matter what's going on, including ourselves. Whatever arises is just what arises, not wanting it to be any different than it is. Katie's smiling. Why?
Simple.
It is, and that's kind of the point. It's so simple that it's difficult. We because of conditioned mind, we have a very complicated way of looking at things. I think that's why the Buddha also taught in lists. There's all kinds of different lists in the Buddha's teaching, and the first one is that Four Noble Truths. This is it. There's not any more complicated than this. But when you start diving into it, we realize how complicated our minds are. Charlie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, I hear a lot or read a lot about the Buddha talking about the double arrow. The first arrow is the thing that's coming upon us to give us stress, and then typically our conditioned thinking will take us to some sort of shame or put ourselves down, which is the double arrow that makes it all the more difficult to get away from
Yeah.
the thing you're trying to get away
Yeah.
from.
There's people want to think about origins, like even how did the world begin? So how did dukkha begin? How did this whole thing happen? And that's explained in dependent origination, and I really won't get too far into that, except it's the original craving for existence that dukkha arises, and it's proliferated by continual desire. And it will continue to proliferate until we abandon all desire. And that brings up that question, well, again, does that mean that I can't enjoy my life? It doesn't. But that's one of those things that you really can't understand until you put aside all desire and you realize that for the first time in your life, you're fully present moment by moment. And you can fully experience whatever's going on. We can that's the essence of mindfulness is the completion of the path and the abandonment of all desire. But we're so caught up in that sounds like death. It sounds like there'll be nothing left. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking about, or I'll be talking about non-self. I hope you all will too. But that's another difficult concept because we have such a strong identity that this is me and this is all there is, that we can't we can't let go of, you have to let go of this before you can understand really what the Buddha was talking about. But simply we'll put it that this personality that's arisen from my own thought, words, and deeds, it's not me. But I really believe it, and I really want to hang on to it, because I don't think there's anything else. What's left is a true understanding. What's left when we abandon all desire, including the desire that this be me, is awakening. You know, it's what the Buddha awakened to. More, you had another comment or question?
Well, I was going to say, isn't the example that Charlie brought up, or the question that he brought up about this, the second arrow, when we layer, so something happens, an event happens, I'm depressed, I'm having difficulty getting up out of bed, I have low energy, and rather than being with those sensations, we start saying, I should know better than this, right? So that's just, it's the same craving and the desire for something to be different than it is, and to somehow remove oneself from the situation. You're back, now you're stuck in dukkha. You're stuck in the phenomenal world of discursive thinking, and you're missing what's just being, having the mind of equanimity to what's going on right there and then. It's sensations in the body and things.
Having that mind of equanimity means a non-reactive mind. So initially things happen to us, and in practice we recognize that some form of craving or grasping is arising. That awareness allows us to not grasp and crave and cling and develop aversion. And that's the beginning of the interruption of further conditioned thinking.
Right effort.
You know? Right effort. You know, so that it really is, we start unraveling our conditioned thinking when we start getting into this practice. First we recognize what it is and we put it aside. And we're literally interrupting conditioned thinking, and we start diminishing its effects. And that really is the whole path. The whole path is getting from a point of complete delusion and not even understanding that everything is happening because of our own thoughts, to recognizing that, yes, it is my own thoughts, and these are the thoughts that keep creating these problems in my life. It keeps creating this view that I have of the world and the events that happen. And one by one, we pick them off. You know, we say, well, there it is. There's an aspect of my conditioned thinking. I recognize it. I'm going to put it aside. And again, that's the practical manifestations of the Eightfold Path. You know, the Buddha gave us 8 different ways of looking at ourselves that covers everything. It covers all of our behavior. And for the sole purpose of recognizing it, of being mindful of it. You know, that's the application of mindfulness, the practical application of it. Is my view correct right now? You know, if my view is to acquire something or to keep something out that I'm experiencing, to say that I don't want this, I don't want to experience it, or I need that, we're engaged in a wrong view. Being fully present with what's here, whatever it is, and enjoying it is right view. It's taking in this present moment. And so that could be anything. It could be something that used to cause aversion. But now, without the judgment, we're just present with it. And also it could be, I always use chocolate cake, it could be being fully present with a slice of chocolate cake and not be caught up in the apple pie that we're going to make tomorrow. You know, just enjoy it right now. I mean, those are simple and kind of silly explanations of what it means to be present. But it just means to be here in this present moment without grasping, clinging, craving, and desire. Without wanting this present moment, including who's talking to you, be any different than it is right now. Charlie.
One of the things that helps me is this notion that it's evolutionary. In other words, we started off as, back as a caveman looking over our shoulder a lot of the day for good reason. There were things out there that could hurt us. And so we've got this mind that's constantly thinking about what can go wrong and what can get us and what can hurt us and worry. And so it's not necessarily natural to just put that aside. Yeah. It's got an evolutionary bias or basis in our system. But what I think the Buddha is suggesting is that you take those thoughts and you recognize that, they're only thoughts. In the world today, 9 times out of 10, we don't have a legitimate worry, so put it aside, let it go.
Yeah. Thank you. That's just clear thinking, Be aware of what we're doing. That instinctual part of our brain that's necessary just for physical survival is what is one of the causes that leads to this development of this overarching ego that becomes who we really are, rather than just it's there for the survival of this physical body. You know, and when you look at evolution in terms of the Buddha Dharma and how human beings evolved from whatever theory you want to attach yourself to, and then think about the Buddha Dharma evolving in that brain and where we are today. It's almost like, and I think it is like, that was the preparation for the vehicle for our awakening. The Dalai Lama said the whole purpose of being here, the purpose of time, is to awaken. You know, it's not for any other reason. It's not even it's not even for pleasure so much as to understand that pleasure is a distraction from who we truly are. So we can fully embrace all the things. Again, I keep going back to that because it's come up a lot. People talking to me about, I got to give up everything in order to engage in this practice. You do, but what are you giving up? You're giving up all the things that keep you in this cycle of stress. You know, the ultimate goal is to put aside all those things. Yeah, put aside all craving, all clinging, all desire. Most people think that if we get enough stuff, that then I'll be happy, then I can relax. And most people never get there. You know, no matter how much stuff you get, you know, it's never enough. You always want the next thing, or something comes and grabs your attention. You think, oh, well, I need that. You know, that 10-foot wide TV just isn't big enough. I need a 12-footer now. You know?
All
And
nice
it's
people in my life.
yeah, I only want nice people in my life. You know, and so we try to acquire people based on who we think they should be too. It's just an endless thing. So that's why it's such a veil. This going after pleasure, it's such a veil to who we truly are, because it never ends until we abandon it completely. You know, that's the second noble awakening to the second noble truth. I've abandoned the cause of stress. I've abandoned the cause of my own delusion. So that simplistic teaching, I better get to meditation. We're never going to do it. That simplistic explanation of the problem that life is stress is very simplistic. But it's just pointing out the problem. It doesn't point out the goal, which is to awaken to the true nature of reality. You know, but we first have to understand what the veil is. You know, what's blocking us. You know, I mentioned in the article that the Buddha is sometimes talked as the great physician, and so he, like a doctor, would first diagnose the condition. You know, then he'd tell us where it came from. You know, you're eating too much chocolate cake, so you got this condition. And then he would tell you, give you some hope. He said, you know, there's a way that you can turn this around. You can regain your health. And here's the treatment. And the Buddha did the same thing. He said, you can regain your sanity. And the treatment is the Eightfold Path. And it's exactly that. We take the medicine for what ails us, which is our own delusion. And it's a very practical and straightforward practice. So next week, we'll come to the Eightfold Path. That's enough talking tonight. I hope. Are there any other brief questions? We can talk about it too in our group discussion too. Okay, so let's meditate. Katie, I'll just talk through the meditation. It's very simple and very basic. You already have a good posture. So find your comfortable, relaxed, meditative posture. Your posture should be stable and comfortable. Keep your back straight but not stiff. Your ears should be aligned with your shoulders, your nose aligned with your navel. And just begin to relax. Relax into your seat. Gently close your eyes. Gently close your mouths. And again, just begin to relax into your seat. Begin to take refuge in yourself and in our Sangha, in this present moment. Now is the time to meditate. And just take a moment to become acquainted with the sensation of breathing in your body. What does it feel like? And place your awareness on that sensation of breathing. And breathing through the nose, you may notice that the air is slightly cooler on the inhale, slightly warmer on the exhale. And if you can pick up the breath right at the tip of your nose, place your awareness there. And remain mindful of the sensation of breathing. And notice that thoughts are flowing. And begin to loosen the grip on your thoughts. Begin to loosen the need or interrupt the need to follow one thought with another thought. Begin to allow some spaciousness in your thoughts. And as thoughts arise, gently put those thoughts aside and place your awareness on the sensation of breathing. And take just a moment to notice the quality of your mind. Be at peace with your mind. And again, as thoughts arise, gently put those thoughts aside and remain mindful of the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 20